Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Mitch. Hope you've been enjoying your work week so far. Hope you're enjoying your day. Got you a big time update here on this winter storm that is likely to occur here in the next couple of days into the weekend. This is going to be a very eventful weekend weather-wise for a lot of people in the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. If you guys have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button for me. Like the video if you like it. You guys got anything I can pray about, please put in the comments. Gives me an opportunity to pray for you. It gives others an opportunity to do so too. And we can all look out for one another in that way here. Hit me up on Twitter. I update almost hourly unless I'm extremely busy at work. Hit me up on Facebook. Another great way to follow. I know a lot more people have Facebook and other platforms over there. So I will mention, and we'll go on and get rolling here. I will mention, guys, the models are everywhere. I think the only thing that's gained in confidence is the fact that we're going to have winter weather in a lot of areas that do not see it. Is there going to be 2 rounds? Is there going to be one big storm? Is just going to be a couple smaller events? What's going to happen? Let's talk about and run through all the model guidance and compare and contrast and just check everything out. Because some of the short range models are coming in. They paint different scenarios as far as the timing, which I felt like was gaining a little bit more confidence, but that's even starting to decrease in confidence here. So what we got going on is we have an Arctic front up here. It's beginning to dip into the upper Midwest as we speak. These are potential high temperatures tomorrow. Notice the big time Arctic boundary setting up here. You got moist air riding up against this Arctic air. And this is sweeping through and sagging south very quick. In fact, some areas tomorrow probably their temperatures will drop during the day. Same case for Thursday. We get into Thursday morning, and the Arctic air is coming down. I know you guys are thinking, why are you showing me this? I just want to know if it's going to snow or ice or not. Well, this is a piece of the puzzle. I'm not here to just show you a bunch of model runs and then rolling out. I want to explain kind of what's going on here. It's very important to really kind of understand what's going on here. It really is. Arctic air shooting down. At the same time, you got an active southern jet really cranking up down here. Warm Gulf moisture is going to ride over this Arctic air. And you get into Thursday, I really think there's chances for areas of the Carolinas, Georgia, for temperatures to drop throughout the day, depending on your location. This continues to settle in. We get into Friday morning, and this is when the Arctic air really begins to get entrenched into the southeast. And at the same time, you got moisture starting to build here. And then this is high temperatures from the GEFS ensembles, reliable source. You see that cold air damming set up. You got areas just staying below freezing for high temperatures well into the south, and that's going to set up for a frigid weekend and set the stage for wintry precipitation all through the weekend potentially. Now we look at the precipitation and we notice this is now through Tuesday morning, and notice you have a ton of moisture showing up in the southeast with all this Arctic air in here. To me, that means that you're going to have this moisture with the Arctic air. You're going to have some winter weather. So I mentioned this in the National Weather Service day 3 to 7 hazards outlook. It's still painting this area the same thing we showed last night from the January 21st to this 22nd for freezing rain and sleet. In this area right here, there's a threat for heavy snow. When these guys are highlighting the area, you need to pay attention because they are the professionals and they know what they're talking about. If they're confident enough to drop that, then something's going to happen. So we'll look at a more broad view. Here comes the latest European. We're going to start to roll through the models now. And as we get into as early, first off, let's back it up here and talk about you folks in the Mid-South. Look at Kentucky breaking out with some snow. This will be a nice, quick-hitting snow event for areas of Kentucky, maybe West Virginia, heck, even areas of Tennessee. This will continue to sag south. I think there's a chance for some wintry precipitation breaking out across northern Mississippi and Alabama. I don't think this is going to be much of an event. Could be a flash, a freezing kind of situation where you get a little bit of moisture. The Arctic front moves through and freezes any kind of moisture left over on any kind of surfaces. As we're getting into Thursday afternoon and evening, Arctic air continues to sag south. You might have some overrunning already starting to occur as almost like a teaser event. Snow breaking out over these areas in Virginia and North Carolina. But this is when the real storm cranks up. And moisture begins to funnel in from the Gulf. Arctic air begins to sag in here. And here comes these pinks and everything, and the blues starting to show up. That's snow, freezing rain, and sleet. Get to the next time frame, and it's an all-out winter storm, especially for eastern areas of the Carolinas. As we're getting going here, we're going to get a little bit of a closer look at this here in a second. I want to mention the 18Z Euro is running now, and it's about to get fully in range, so range at least part of the storm. So we'll get a little bit of a different scenario, I think, coming up. All in all, the Euro ticked a little bit southeast. But this, I mean, look at that. That's a big time winter storm for areas that normally don't see winter weather. We'll get a little bit closer look at the Euro moving on through. And here it comes. I mean, look at all this freezing rain. This would be valid for Friday afternoon, probably about 1 or 2 p.m., give or take. And we'll back it way up here. And it's breaking out as early as Friday morning in the upstate of South Carolina and North Carolina. Then the moisture really begins to ride in. I will tell you, the European, maybe the previous European, had moisture much further north. It is actually, instead of the northwest trend kicking in, which I think will still kick in right before the storm, it's kind of been a little bit of a suppressed trend, meaning more of a southeast trend, meaning more cold air but less moisture. So we'll see how that plays out, but we're getting into Friday afternoon and freezing rain breaking out. And all these areas in pink is freezing rain. In pivotal weather, the pink, the purple is the sleet. And it's different in every kind of website that shows weather models. And the blue is always going to be snow. This moves in, and I feel like this is a very big-time impactful event, even for eastern South Carolina and North Carolina, but an impactful event for everybody. But really, it doesn't really make it up into Delaware, Maryland. It's a big, sharp cutoff for you folks in Washington, D.C. Y'all will be cold enough for all snow. But it doesn't look like it's a very impactful event. It's trended southeast. Y'all have kind of lost that big, robust system for all these coastal areas that was really showing on the European earlier. So what is the European showing as far as snowfall totals? Well, check it out. This looks like to be a nice event for southern areas of the mid-Atlantic and then upper areas of the southeast, which I consider North Carolina. This 10-to-1 ratio, which I feel like would be a 10-to-1 ratio storm. Let me tell you guys, even in areas of South Carolina, this wintry precipitation, whether it's freezing rain, sleet, has a chance to fall at pretty low temperatures. It's not a marginal event for some folks that normally have very marginal events. Marginal meaning it's 31, 32 degrees, and you're barely cold enough for any wintry precipitation, frozen precipitation. But the European highlights a very impressive snowstorm for areas of the southern areas of Delmarva area in Maryland. It doesn't quite really, the shield of snow doesn't really quite make it up to Pennsylvania or anything. Shows that snow for areas of West Virginia as the front sags down, and just shows a nice snowstorm for North Carolina and Virginia. And snow, I know you're thinking down here in South Carolina, where's the snow down here? Well, you have warm air advection, which means you got a warm nose in the atmosphere. And I'll talk about that, and I'll get a little nerdy with you guys and talk a little bit about that here in a second, why it's in the 20s and you're not getting snow. And I'll break that down. Just stick with me in the video if you want to know the science behind it. But let's look at the ice totals from the Euro. We'll get fast blast through this. And that is catastrophic ice totals showing up in the PD, in the eastern areas, even Myrtle Beach showing ice, and then in the coastal plains of North Carolina, and all the towns in this area, this would be a devastating ice storm. I think you could probably cut the totals down a little bit, but probably not as much as the last event that happens, because this will be falling in very cold temperatures, but even shows ice storm criteria, ice in Columbia, South Carolina, and damaging ice showing up everywhere. So that's what the Euro says, right? And, I'm not going to neglect you guys out to the west. This has a chance to affect you guys too. And I'll show you that here in a second. The latest GFS. What does the GFS show? Well, here it comes. Here comes that nice snow event for Kentucky, West Virginia, maybe even southern Indiana and Ohio, areas of Tennessee. That works its way through. It's going to be a quick hitter, but could dump some nice snow. I think the snowfall ratios will be very impressive, meaning you'll have cold air falling at some very cold temperatures, meaning it'll stick to things much quicker because the Arctic air will be rolling through. This is what I want to talk about with my areas a little further west that I'm kind of been ignoring in a couple videos. I really think as we're getting into Thursday afternoon, evening, you could have some wintry precipitation break loose, maybe just north of Houston, as the Arctic air mass begins to sag. And I mean, check it out. You can really see it here. I'm telling you, mark my word, overnight Thursday into Friday, especially, you're going to have probably some winter weather advisories show up for southern areas of Texas that don't normally see winter weather. This includes Louisiana too. I don't know what's going to fall here, sleet, freezing rain. But you see these little dots of pink showing up here. That tells me that it's just cold enough for some frozen precipitation in these areas, along the southern areas of the Gulf states. I'll back it up here. Notice as this cold front is sagging through this Arctic air mass, a little bit of overrunning occurring here in North Carolina, but that's just a teaser event. And here comes the big event that cranks up. This would be valid for Friday afternoon. Moisture doesn't get quite north enough for you guys. Y'all are plenty cold enough here in the Mid-South. But the moisture just doesn't get quite north enough. But it does here in the Carolinas, maybe portions. For Atlanta, I'm watching you guys. Do not give up on the storm. I know you're not seeing nothing in North Georgia, but this could still end up being an event for you guys. But into central South Carolina, this looks like a mess. The purple on this is sleet. Pink is freezing rain. The blue is snow. And as we get into Friday evening, this turns into a late bloomer, meaning low pressure develops quickly and kind of throws an expansive shield of precipitation back in this cold air. And this just turns into a pretty much an all-out winter storm for the Carolinas and portions of Southeast Virginia. And then that moves through, and then a low pressure fires up again. This is what I was talking about in the beginning of the video about almost dual storms. And I will mention, guys, we're not done after this. I'll eat crow if I'm wrong, but it reminds me of the Texas setup, except a lot less severe as far as the Arctic air and the cold temperatures. But to me, you're going to have this Arctic air mass either around or in place, even in areas of the Southeast. And you're going to have Gulf moisture that's going to occasionally surge up into the eastern U.S. And that's kind of what happened in Texas, where you had 2 or 3 systems that moved over that Arctic air mass within a week's time frame. But here comes another system. Saturday afternoon, this has freezing rain breaking out in central to almost southern Georgia. Turns into another ice storm event for southern sections of South Carolina. Throws more freezing rain on areas that just got it maybe 12, 18 hours prior. This is getting into Saturday evening. I'm telling you, this could be an event that could potentially unfold to being a 24, 36 hour long event for areas of the Carolinas. And for you folks in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, this has really trended away from a storm. But as y'all know, especially the people who are into weather who are listening to my videos, beware of the Northeast trend. And that tends to happen sometimes. So definitely watch out for that. As we're getting through here, now let's look at snowfall totals from the GFS, right? They're not quite as crazy, but they have snow a little bit further south. Shows Atlanta with a little bit of snow. This is through Sunday morning. Let's keep this going. So this will bring us to about Monday morning. But this is a nice snowstorm. This is snow showing up from North Carolina and sleet. And Charlotte, it kind of has the same kind of axis as the Euro, but it's a little bit further south with the totals. Gives areas of Maryland and Delaware some snow. If y'all hear my kids in the background, they are going crazy tonight. So so let's look at the ice totals from the GFS, and let's see what this looks like. I'm telling you, the ice keeps showing up on all models with these models basically, and this shows the axis of ice really far south, and this picks up on the second system in Georgia too. All this ice in Georgia is from that second system, but this would be a devastating ice storm for areas that got hit really hard about 8 years ago from what the Weather Channel deemed Winter Storm Pax in February 2014. But this would show a nasty southern eastern South Carolina ice storm and southeastern North Carolina ice storm. It really would. So we keep going. I want to show you guys the latest NAM. NAM coming on board. The NAM is interesting because it throws the timing off. Notice with this first little disturbance with the NAM that the European has a lot bigger. European and GFS has a lot more going on at this time frame. This is for 12Z Friday. That's 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. First off, look at all this wintry precipitation, this frozen precipitation. I keep saying wintry. Frozen is a lot easier to say, but look at all the frozen precipitation showing up in southern areas of Texas. And I'm not going to doubt this at all from happening. This gives areas like Houston, and areas, north and west hope. It really does. And it gives very far southern sections of Louisiana, getting into Mobile, Alabama, areas of southern Mississippi. But look what happens here. It delays it, and then it makes a push for some precipitation into Georgia and the Carolinas. It's a much colder run, and it's a little later. It really brings it in into the Carolinas and the Southeast a little bit later. In fact, a good 12 or so hours later. And it keeps going all the way through. It only goes 84 hours out. But this shows a big-time, nasty winter storm of ice, sleet, and snow breaking out over the Carolinas. And this stops overnight, Friday into Saturday. I want to mention, guys, let's stop here. I'm going to click 2 little clicks right here, and this is in the middle of the storm. And look at the temperatures. 27 in Columbia, 29 in Charlotte. A little bit colder in Columbia just because there's more precip over this area. But basically all in the 20s, right? And this is when moisture is moving over. So this storm, even into South Carolina and Georgia, is dropping frozen precip, whether it's snow, sleet, and precip is short for precipitation, right? And moisture. It's dropping frozen moisture into these areas of the Carolinas into the 20s. So you're thinking, why is it showing so much sleet and freezing rain, Mitch? I don't want an ice storm. Well, I'll break it down on why here and check it out. We'll look at this. So I'm going to freeze it right here. Notice it's nice snow into the upstate of South Carolina. But then notice right here, the pink right here is freezing rain, and then the purple on this is sleet. So I'll put a sounding in Columbia, South Carolina. Yes, I live in Columbia, South Carolina, so I'm going to show my place a little bit love. Notice the air temperature at the surface is 29 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So this blue line is the air temperature. The green line is dew points, which always overlaps, especially when they get close, the temperatures. So you get the blue line and just it's behind the green line here. But notice this blue line right here. That's 0 degrees Celsius, which is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Notice how it goes up into the atmosphere. Notice how the air temperature, it's snowing, it's cold enough, and then it gets above freezing about 3 to 4 to 5, 6,000 feet above the surface. What happens here is those snowflakes melt in the sleet, then they melt in the rain. So now it's too warm for anything way above our heads. This is called a warm nose. It sticks out like a little nose. So when this falls back into an area that's maybe 1,000, 2,000 feet up in the air, depending on how broad that area is, sometimes it can refreeze into a sleet pellet, or sometimes it's not able to. So it falls at rain at a surface that is well below freezing. Therefore, you get freezing rain. So this tells me that the Arctic air is shallow and you have a warm nose. So that's why you're getting freezing rain. Now you take the sounding right here in the upstate of South Carolina, and this is a snow sounding. And it's 23 degrees, but you see this air temperature, and it almost gets above freezing, but it doesn't, right? So it stays at or above freezing in that same area I was just talking about for Columbia, and then it goes back down. So this stays all snow, and heavy snow at that. So breaking down that, if y'all got any questions on that, definitely feel free to comment. But this is the NAM, and only goes out to 84 hours. The storm's not done, remember. But this would bring a nice swath of snow into Atlanta, and it's starting to move its way into its upstate and then the Piedmont of North Carolina. That's where it stops, right? The storm's not done. Keep that in mind. You look at the NAM from ice, and then it has a nasty ice storm cranking up. And keep in mind, this is not done either. And it already, by the time you get into the overnight hours into Friday and Saturday, already is pumping out huge ice storm totals. This is probably overdone. Who knows what's overdone and what's underdone? We really don't know. And it's sad that we don't know at this range, but we really don't. All we know is that a winter weather event's going to occur. But even before the sun comes up on Saturday morning, the NAM wants to put down major ice storm conditions as far west as areas of Atlanta, and not areas of Atlanta, areas of central Georgia. And let me show my folks out west a little bit more love here as we're going here. Let's click the southeast and look at these ice totals out west. If the NAM's correct, you guys would have a major ice storm in southern areas of Louisiana and then in areas of Texas. So it's not just us folks in the southeast. The NAM, I'm not going to call it an outliner, but it looks crazy to me. But I definitely think some winter precipitation could definitely occur in Texas and Louisiana. That just happens when you have this air mass sagging down. Let's look at the RGEM model, which is becoming a more respectable model, but it's still not looked upon very much. Let me tell you, this model is the model that you want to happen, folks. Look at this. Look what happens. It's perfect. You're getting into Friday morning, and this shows a lot more snow for areas further south. This is valid for around Friday evening. Yes, you still got sleet in the purple, freezing rain for areas further south in the low country of South Carolina. But look how much further south the snow is. If this was to happen, this would bring a raging sleet storm to finish it up with snow. This would make a lot more people happy, but someone would still have to bite the bullet and get freezing rain. And if something like this was to happen, this would be a major, major winter storm. But for snow lovers, that looks a lot better. So we'll finish this video off by looking at the National Weather Service Blenda models. This blends all the models together. It still shows the potential for nice snows in the Mid-Atlantic and basically southern New England. But we'll see how much this ticks further south overnight with guidance. But this is a nice snowstorm showing up for Virginia, North Carolina again. And even into South Carolina and in North Georgia, you see some snowfall totals. You look at ice from the same thing and see what this is looking like. This is a lot of ice showing up from just this far out. I mean, it's already showing well over a quarter, almost a half an inch of ice for eastern areas of South Carolina and North Carolina, and almost a quarter inch of ice in Columbia. You're not going to be able to avoid the ice storm part of this storm, folks. So that's all I got. Of course, I'll have you an update in the morning, maybe a tad bit later in the morning. I have tomorrow off. I got some things to take care of, but God bless everybody. Thank you all for tuning in, and talk to you next time.